mind with his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning. It's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
So if they are either incompetent, nobody should listen to them. Or if they are lying, nobody should listen to them. And that is a big problem. And I would like to basically demonstrate how it literally strips, if media lies to you, to us, to whoever, it literally strips us of our free will. And I have an excellent example on this. I was in northern France, and Johnnie, by the way, knows, like I work in petrochemical industry. I was working there and on business trip, and I went into a pub and I heard like some English and stuff like that. So I was like, oh yeah, cool, I'll join these blokes, and they were British truck drivers, and basically we got into talking and stuff like that. And it was after basically the Brexit was finalized, and we were talking and stuff like that, and obviously the Brexit topic came up, and I was like, by the way, guys, like, why you voted and stuff like that? Oh yeah, we are from fishing, like towns and stuff like that, and the problem with EU, they give you quotas, and like those quotas like just completely like shoved at us. We cannot fish, like all the UK, basically all the small fishing towns, small fishing village, they died off. That's not enough, and we hope basically to go back to fishing. And I was like, okay, guys, it is strange, because like the quotas, 98% of that, the quotas go to 4 companies, big conglomerates. Like that is your government's decision. And it's not only the first one, but the second is that one of the companies that has 25% of all the fishing quotas is foreign. It's not British. Your government, the British government, literally sold you out. Like, I don't know why. I mean, that's like literally, that screams investigation for corruption, just saying. Yeah, I don't know why. And obviously they didn't trust me first. And I was like, no, check this out. Like, blah, blah, blah. I doodled on my phone. This is your government's own, basically, documents where they say they allocate those quotas. And they were like, you just, if you would seen the heartbreak in their eyes, because they were like, yeah, that's why we voted for Brexit. Otherwise, we have problems with EU, but it's kind of good, But that was the deal breaker for us.
Oh, is that right?
And they like, honestly, if you would, the change in their eyes when they were reading it, like it was first anger, but then like insanely deep sorrow. And this literally demonstrates. Yeah, that too.
Betrayal.
This literally demonstrates you that if media lies, they strip you of your free will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I mean, they can destroy you. And unfortunately, I mean, it has just changed a lot. Back in the day, we had the large media outlets. You had NBC, ABC, CBS. And of course, you have the newspapers. AP and Reuters were the major sources. And then it was around the 1980s when things started getting a little off kilter. And then I think the first time I remember when I think it was NBC that packed a GM truck with explosives to make it blow up because they were doing an expose on the fires. It was basically a recall problem. It turns out that Chevy pickups were catching on fire, and they wanted to show everybody, some backdrop to make it dramatic. Well, these trucks don't catch on fire all the time, so if you're going to want to capture it, you're going to have to crash a lot of trucks. Well, it works better if you just put explosives in the truck. And that's what they did. And of course, Chevrolet sued NBC saying, you guys can't do this. And they NBC lost. That was kind of the first time we start to see manipulation, And then, of course, Dan Rather's expose of George W. Bush was absolutely hysterical. I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm talking about. Well, Dan Rather claimed that he came across a letter that proved that George W. Bush had avoided the draft. And it had been written by a colonel, I think it was a colonel, in the Air Force. And he showed the letter and said that he had it examined and it was authentic. As far as he could tell, this looked like the real deal. Okay. And of course, this was right before the election. So this could have cost George W. Bush the election. But then they looked at it and said, wait a minute, this thing, the letters have been kerned. The spacing had been moved on a typewriter. Keep in mind that this was supposed to have been typed out like in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And then the expose was really blown up when somebody took and did a movie of them opening up Microsoft Word, doing all the typing, kerning it, and then putting it right over the top of the other one and showing they're identical. So they actually demonstrated how it was created in Microsoft Word. And that was an extraordinarily embarrassing event for Dan Rather. Not that it bothered him. He's still out there doing his thing. But again, this is where you start to see the media sort of become the driving force behind a narrative. Now it's just we've lost complete control over it. And it's the YouTubers and the influencers that have stepped into the void. Some of it's good, but as you know, a lot of it is not.
Yeah.
Example of some really bad journalism that's going on out there. Like, for example, that Court TV. I've been hammering them.
Oh my God, yeah. I like lawyers, and they like. I'm like, oh my God.
And you think you have got to be kidding me, but no. And that's why I say. Journalism, man, it's it's the candy store.
Basically, I was talking with some like Antifa, but storming Normandy beaches because Antifa stormed. I literally wrote. I literally wrote. Oh yeah, I don't remember that. My great grandfather was saying something about some jackasses in black hoodies, being like that on a D-Day or something like that. My great grandfather was an RAF pilot, by the way. He was flying Spitfire and covering the landings, and basically we get into talking, and he was like, oh yeah, but what about Proud Boys, and stuff. Because I point out some violent actions by Antifa, like, look here, see, your comrades are literally beating innocent people up, that's really bad. You should, basically denounce it, publicly. Oh yeah, what about Proud Boys? Well, yeah, okay, they're jackasses too, I can show, that fucking idiots, who beat, innocent, or they, in their words, like to scuffle, but still they use violence for political reasons. I can absolutely say, yeah. And he was like, what do I say now? I'm not used to this, where basically he should, and I was like, yeah, so both groups are basically idiots, what I mean, to a degree, and etc., other bad words, But yeah, he was completely stunned.
I would go a little bit further and say that the people in those groups that are hurting people, there's no excuse for that. They're idiots.
Yeah.
Their labels, I don't really care about that. If a person wants to call himself Antifa, fine. Just don't go around hurting people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to, take on the Antifa moniker. Now, if you're going around showing the Soviet flag, I mean, it's your right.
I have a problem with that, I must say.
I mean, it's their right, but oh my gosh, I mean, that is really a slap in the face of millions of people who have suffered greatly at the hands of that regime.
We got invaded in '68 by them.
What's that?
We got invaded in '68, by the way, by them. So yeah, it is, I hate it too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I just got done listening, watching a documentary on Beria, the KGB dude, and oh my God, of course I already knew all about that, but they run around, they got their little Soviet stuff going on. Fine, okay, I don't like it. I think it's absolutely despicable, but you can do that. Yeah. And if you want to call yourself antifa, I have no issue with it. You start hitting people, no, I ain't going for that, and I don't give a damn if in your mind you have made that person guilty of something that you think you can hit them for, unless that person has actually done something to warrant an actual strike. No, there's no defense for it.
Yeah.
Just because you think the person's a Nazi, no. This whole punch a Nazi thing, and I've always asked them, well, are they allowed to punch you back? Well, why not? If you're punching them, they can punch you.
Then if they cannot punch you, then you are by definition not fighting. You know what I mean? Because fight is between, when basically somebody's throwing punches, when punches are flying both ways.
Yeah, if you can punch them and they can't punch you back, you're a tyrant.
Yeah.
That's essentially the definition of a tyrant.
That is true. Absolutely.
You can't get more authoritarian than that.
Yeah. Just when you said, like you were reading on Beria, basically what Zhukov said, he was brilliant. I love it. If you have anyone in the audience doesn't know who Zhukov was, he was one of the greatest Soviet general during the Second World War, and there's plenty of people who say that he's like one of the greatest generals of all time. That's we can discuss it, but he was very influential. He was very good, and by the way, he was self-made man. He actually came from nothing, and he worked his way all the way up. You don't have to like, for example, Soviets, but that deserves some respect. You know what I mean, to his person. And after when he was writing his memoirs and stuff like that, the writer that was helping him, he asked him what he is most proud of, and probably expecting some answer of type, like winning this battle, doing this or that, and he full on said, he fought apparently a bit, looked him in the eyes, and full on said, and it's in the books and stuff, killing Beria. Mm-hmm. Because they full on, they took him. He was such a despicable person, so like literal monster, and so even the Soviets, they were like, okay, let's kill that dude, even though he's highly, in the party, blah 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 blah, etc. etc.
Well, he was supposed to succeed Stalin.
Yeah.
And well, they decided, no, I don't think he's going to.
Yeah.
Problem. But and you look at the entire list of these people, Yagoda and Yezhov, and I forget the name of the guy who was the first of the Cheka, but dang it, I forget. But long string of psychopaths.
Yeah.
But again, and I've said this, they didn't raid the mental hospitals for these guys. They're very normal. That's what's scary. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that the people that are running around with the Soviet flag and stuff really understand this. I don't think they really know much about. They look upon Nazism is the evil. Who's the biggest enemy of Nazism? Well, it's the Soviets. Therefore, they must be good. No, it doesn't quite work like that. And in fact, and I've made this many times, the reason why those two hated each other so much was because they were so much alike. And, if you read Goebbels' original diary, he sounds communist. Everything about the workers and all that, and you get the feeling like, oh my gosh, this could have been part of the Communist Manifesto. And I think that's why they hated each other so much.
Here, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to disagree with it. No, you can. There are definitely overlaps, but here you are a wee bit of a guilty, of American bias, because you guys are shifted in comparison with us to the right, like a lot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you some aspects, because like they definitely have for example, from economical perspective, they had definitely some forms of socialism and stuff like that implemented, but like Nazis and stuff like that, they were truly polar opposite of Soviets when it came to basically not just economy, but when it came to other policies, you know what I mean, with be it racial policies or other policies. But I'm not in no fucking shape or form like insinuating that who's on right, he's like Nazis, you know what I mean. They were complete absolute extreme, but truly they were on the right. I know there are some aspects, you know, like some overlaps where you can be like, oh yeah, but it's like it's socialist. Yeah, but no.
Well, if you think about it, Germany was what? All about expansionism.
Yeah.
The Soviets, what did they do? They invaded the country, right? So it's like,
yeah,
they were, you know, and this whole thing about it, a lot of people think that, well, the Soviets weren't nationalist like the Germans. Well, yeah, they were. It was all a Mother Russia thing. They were very much into it. I will say, though, that the difference, I think one of the big primary differences is that I don't think that the Germans were into sort of the economic, I would say they didn't look upon those who had different economic policies as people they could go out and shoot. The Soviets definitely did. I mean, if you had come up with ideas that indicated you had different viewpoints on economics and stuff, you were an enemy of the state. Boy, once you got labeled an enemy of the state, you're correct. You know, the Germans, I don't think, really had that sort of identity around economics like the Soviets did. The Nazis' identity was around culture and race.
100%.
And so there is that distinction between them. However, the elements of fascism, which we associate with fascism, and that is, you know, censorship, intimidation, propaganda, all that. Both of them, both of those found that those were very effective devices, and they used them. And I'd say the Soviets are even better at it. I mean, the fear, you know, in Soviet Union had to have been extraordinary. There was no escaping it. In Germany, if you were at least part of the class that was protected, you were probably going to be good. Nobody was safe in the Soviet Union. Didn't matter.
That is true.
Once you had an ideological difference with Stalin, you're dead.
Yeah, and not
taken down in the cellar and shot.
And not just Stalin. When I earlier said that we got invaded, and I have kind of problems when I see digheads in America, you know, like running with Soviet flags and stuff like that, with hammer and sickle. Yeah, it was because the Czechoslovakia at the time in '68, we were like, okay, guys, communism, you know, like it's fine, you know, but it doesn't. Your model, the Soviet model, doesn't work for us the best. We are Czechs, we do things a wee bit our way, we just tweak few things. We want to stay in the Warsaw Pact, we want to stay in the, you know, like basically in the, I don't know how to translate it now, basically the brotherhood of nations, of communist nations, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And etc. We just want to tweak it a bit. And we got invaded for that, because we dared to think a wee bit different, and they occupied us, you know, like for 21 years until the fall of Soviet Union, until the fall of communism.
Yeah, and this is another thing that these people that are running around the communist flags don't understand is they have tried this in a lot of different countries, and it seems like it always seems to produce the same result: mass slaughter. And I think the reason why is because the whole Marxist-Leninist let's say ideal only works if you can stamp out human spirit. Because human spirit is what allows a person to think that I should get more than the other person if I'm producing more. Well, that doesn't work well in a communist country, and therefore the first thing they start to do is they start to do purges of anybody who's going to be a promoter of that human spirit. And so intellectuals, if you're an intellectual, kiss your ass goodbye. because they'll rub you out. And Pol Pot, guess what? You wore glasses in Cambodia. You were shot.
Yeah.
And so there's this big fear that somebody is going to rise up and tell the people that, you know what? If you want to be a miner, you can be a miner. If you want to, be an engineer, you can be an engineer. Uh-oh, we got a problem here, because the Marxist-Leninist thing doesn't work that well in that kind of spirit. So, yeah, that's what it is. And of course, Stalin was an extreme form of that, where you couldn't even have even the thought of an opposing ideology at all.
Yeah, and basically, to what degree it goes. Oh no! I'll first address one thing. People are saying that Nazis were worse because they were racist, and the Soviets were not racist. You know what I mean? Well, first of all, they were too, but you're right. It's not in the manifesto, etc., etc., etc. Okay, grant you. Does it matter when you are about to get shot if you are getting shot because of your race or because of what you think?
Yeah, it does matter. I mean, and the whole idea of which one's worse anyway is preposterous. It's just like when people talk about the Spanish Civil War, like, well, which one was worse? Was it the Republican Army or the Nationalists? Who cares? They both exterminated each other like crazy.
Yeah.
The mass executions were conducted on both sides. The Republican Army was known for shooting their own more than the Nationalists, but whatever the case, there's no which one was better. And well, the only reason why a lot of people think the Republican Army was better was because, well, they're the only people, I think, in the world that have ever lost a war and then lived to become the historians of it, right? Usually it's the winning side that gets to write the history books. That's an exception. Yeah. But whatever the case, it's preposterous to think that, to talk in terms of which one is better, fascism or Nazism or Soviet, Marxist-Leninism. They're both despicable, and we don't need to be doing any of that kind of stuff.
Yes. And one more thing I wanted to add when it came to communism and stuff like that, just how it was. If, for example, someone was convicted of a contra-revolutionary ideas, like not actions, ideas, they, for example, got sentenced to slave labor. Like in Czechoslovakia, it was into Uranian mines. That was our basically variability, like in gulags. And not only that, but his family was ostracized. If kids, for example, were at university, kicked out. Good job, cleaning toilets. That's the only thing that you can do. By the way, And do you want to leave, for example, to go to other country? Yeah, you can't do that. You're staying. And if you try to leave, we'll probably shoot you, or, again, a sentence to slave labor.
Little known fact about Soviet Union is law that was passed. If you escape, we can shoot your family. A lot of people don't realize that they actually codified that. And so, hey, by the way, if you want to control somebody's, thinking, that's a good way to do it, right? All that rebelness, right? Rebellion. I'm going to be rebel. We won't just kill you. We'll kill your family too. Okay. I mean, there's no better tool for getting people in line. Yeah. And the people who have the Soviet flags are fighting for that kind of thing. Yeah. And of course, people also understand that if they get what they want, a true Marxist-Leninist state, although I don't even think they know what that means, but if they get what they want, they're going to be probably led down to the cellar in due time anyway. Because, being at the forefront, being at the, one of the early leaders does not save you. Yeah. They will shoot you just as and you can ask, you can't ask them, they're dead now, but you can, you could have asked any number of the early revolutionaries in the Soviet Union, what happens to you. And it doesn't matter if, if you were like a rising star, it doesn't matter for anything about you done in the past. If they feel that you have fallen out, they'll shoot you.
Yeah. And
it's the way it is. So I really just reject this whole Soviet flag crap. Go ahead.
not only just going for the common, because who in the United States who basically is calling for that, those are like college educated people, or at least at colleges, sometimes with degrees and stuff like that. And I just wonder, do they realize they are then not in charge? Because have you seen the TV HBO series Chernobyl?
I didn't see that series. I've watched
excellent.
a lot of Chernobyl.
You should watch it, because they really captured well the feel of basically how it worked in communist country. Not just the feel, but it even details, honest to God, how people were thinking and stuff like that. And there was this scene basically after this is no spoiler, I hope, but still spoiler out for Chernobyl, I believe second episode. Basically after Chernobyl gets popped open and stuff like that, far in Belarus, nuclear physicist, she notices the fallout and stuff like that, and she's like, holy crap. But because it's state secret, nobody can talk about it and stuff like that, but she still feels it's her duty to basically go to the mayor. And so she does, and she's like, hey, we need to evacuate the city. Oh yeah, well, why? The committee doesn't, the party doesn't tell me anything that we should do. Everything's safe, Well, and she's like, oh no, it's not safe because, well, there's this, radiation and blah 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 blah. And she's, no, I don't think so. And she's like, I'm a nuclear physicist, and I'm talking about, well, the radiation, etc. You worked in a shoe factory. And the guy, he's like, literally, he takes a glass, and I try, I'm terrible with accents, I try Russian accent. Yes, I worked in a Russian in shoe factory, and now I'm in charge to the glorious revolution. So yeah, boys, if you then want to be basically want to have a communist revolution and stuff like that, you're not gonna be in charge.
No. And the other thing about it is he kind of touched on it here. A lot of these people that are fighting for the communist revolution are also they're big environmentalists, but they don't realize communism is horrible on the environment. Oh my God! I mean, and I understand that capitalism isn't kind necessarily either. However, communism under the Soviet Union and in China, their policies, they're really horrible on the environment because they're trying to prop up an economy that doesn't work well. And so they cut costs, and one way to cut costs is dump your stuff out into barren landscape. And the Soviet Union was incredibly horrible about that kind of thing. The whole Aral Sea. And all that.
I wanted to say that, ask if you're familiar with it. Nice.
Oh, the Aral Sea. Oh yeah, I've read up a lot on that, and tons of documentaries on it. It's incredible. I mean, and that wasn't, again, they need cotton, they need sails, and let's just choke off the Aral Sea so that we can divert the water to produce cotton plants, and they have to do it because their economy just will not sustain unless they really cut corners on everything. That's how you compete against a capitalist country. Because you cannot compete against a capitalist country under normal conditions. You have to absolutely destroy the environment to do so. And yeah, I know how people are going to feel, well, capitalism is so great either. It's not, but it is strong enough to where you can actually impose some regulations and still survive. You can't in a communist country.
Yeah, basically, I just by both mine and the ideology of my nation, we have literally saying is too much of everything hurts. If you are too much on the right, it hurts. If you are too much on the left, it hurts. Our opinion, and also my position is somewhere in the middle. You tweak it a wee bit here, a wee bit there, a wee bit left, a wee bit right, whatever suits you. But let's be honest, it's some, what I mean. One extreme, Nazis. The other communist, both bad. You need to meet somewhere in the middle.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and just when it comes to the environment and stuff, it's not a coincidence that 2 out of top 5 I think maybe even three, the biggest ecological disasters in the history of mankind happened in Soviet Union. That's the number one is Chernobyl, and number three then is the RLC disaster.
Yeah, and that raises another problem with communist countries, is that because of that free will thing I was talking about earlier, every communist country that has ever arisen has always been cloaked in this non-transparency, secrecy thing. If you go into them, you'll find out that people just are not willing to talk about anything, and so they hide everything.
Yeah.
And so everywhere in all these communist countries, everything is just about just stay quiet.
Yeah.
You know, hey, look, wait a minute. There's some green sludge showing up in our river. Just quiet. I'll raise this thing up with the proper authorities, and then they bury it, because there's so much fear about divulging anything, and I think it's inherent with communism.
Yep.
Because it shows up in every communist country.
I'll tell you this, it was definitely also Nazis, but there's it's like media propaganda and stuff. Because do you know what was like the absolute kicker? Oh, by the way, sorry. Because some dickhead will interpret this as white supremacy symbol. You know, it's my favorite to be basically when I'm sarcastic, you know, like it's great or something like that. It's my favorite. It's not that, you know, and I actually hate you that I kind of need to fucking limit this, and even on camera, because it's like one of my favorite things. I also ordered 3 beers like that, just saying, you know, so great. Anyway, I was saying, with the secrecy and stuff, the kicker about Nazis, there was when they were occupying us, they basically made a racial survey to figure out if we can be Germanized. And they found out, and I kid you not, that 50% of Czechs are more Germanic, or are more, you know what I mean, Nordic features, etc. That are fucked up science, you know, like the eugenics and stuff. But they still came to the conclusion, you know, like to the findings that then the Sudeten Germans, you know what I mean, the Sudetenland. For the guys who don't know, Czechoslovakia had a very sizable German minority that they were living in the mountain regions of the border regions.
I was just going to say, isn't this related? Oh, yeah. And of course, people fighting for the Soviet stuff, they're all about transparency, right? No, that doesn't happen in communist countries at all. And you can't, and everything is cloaked in secrecy, and everybody is suspicious of each other. And you know, this whole thing of enemy of the state, exposing your neighbor, that's very fascist, but they do it.
Just I'm going. Give me a second. I'll do it here. Basically, what you said, you know, like keeping secrets and stuff like that, you know, like where Antifa is saying, oh yeah, we are for freedom of speech and blah blah blah, freedom of expression, etc., etc. Yeah, you are not that much when it came to this. I haven't, you know, like basically stopped reading it yet. You know, like it's the Andy Ngo, you know, book. By the way, thanks, you know, like I guess to Antifa, because the only way how I've basically found about it was because you were literally blocking people from entering bookstores to buy this book. And I was like, yeah, that is very fascist, don't you think? You know, no, it's not fascist. You know, like we are some excuses, you know what I mean? Freedom of expression, literally were, you know, like boycotting the book. And yeah, you know, like that's, no, don't do that. That's literally what fascists do.
What is the name of the book?
Unmasked. It's about, you know, like the inside Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy, from Andy Ngo. I hope, you know, like I pronounced it. Yeah.
Fine with it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. He, you know, like basically, I think you're familiar with who he is, right?
With what?
I think you're familiar who Andy Ngo is, right?
Andy who?
Well, the guy that wrote the freaking book, and Andy Ngo.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if do you have it on your screen? Is it, you know, for example, mirrored, or do you see it fine? You know, like. Is it supposed to?
There's a kind of a. Can you hold it up to the camera because?
Yeah. Okay. That smaller screen.
Unmasked. It reads okay.
Ah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I have a big screen, so I see it well even on my screen. You know, like when I hold it here.
Yeah. Isn't its name pronounced just No?
Maybe. Yeah.
It's pronounced No, and that's what kind of threw me there. But well, I mean, you talk about a dude that's been. He's had a rough life in terms of his journalism.
Yeah. And I just what all they call him and stuff like that. But anyway, my point is here. Yeah, Antifa. You cannot block. Not only that well, it's stifling the freedom of speech, but you have conflict of interest. He is talking about you. So if he's, for example, talking true. Well, obviously you would want to, and he's negative, you obviously would want to basically stop the book from being published. So no, you literally you need to recuse yourself from it, from any boycotting, from etc., etc. You can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, typical fascism, censorship. Yeah, they're all for it. They just don't like it when they censor the stuff you like. Right? It's like, or they like. You know, that's just the way it is. But free exchange of ideas is not something they're interested in.
Yeah, and when basically it's funny how we across the world, you know, like we think the same when you, for example, when we were talking with Neil, and I then made the video why Europeans hate when Americans use the word Nazi lightly. Where you were like, hey, when Antifa is accusing somebody of being a Nazi, what's the most Nazi thing they did? Not what they think, but what they did. And I basically said the story about the Wehrmacht soldiers, you know, like, well, murdering people. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, we cannot judge if we are good people based on our motives, but on our actions. And well, it's basically the same, you know what I mean? And that's one. And if you look at the Antifa's actions when it comes to this, okay, your motive is to stop, well, let's say a Nazi, a gay Asian man. Do you understand that who basically the Nazis were killing the most, you know, like literally euthanizing gay people? Hmm? Yeah, and Asians, you know, like they were not that far behind, you know, like anyway.
This is rainbow Nazism. This is
okay.
Right? Yeah. I don't know what it's.
Yeah. And okay, so that's your motivation to stop Nazism. Okay, fair enough. And what did you do? You literally are attacking people who want to buy a book. Mm-hmm. That's literally, you know, like that's wrong. Downright to it, regardless of your motivation, that's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't see the hypocrisy in it, and I don't think that they ever can. Mm. You know, I don't think that they'll ever acknowledge that.
Yeah,
but it's clearly inconsistent with their.
100%.
And again, you know, they don't have a lot of worldview. They haven't read up on the past injustices like we have. And of course, there's scholars who would know a lot more than we do, I'm sure. But I mean, we have actually put in effort to kind of come to grips with what happened in the past and understand it. And they haven't.
Here's the thing, you know, like we in Czech Republic didn't have to put much effort because we are taught this since elementary school. Communism, bad idea. You know what I mean? We tried it, doesn't work, stay away.
Yeah. Now, all I have to do is just look at their cars. I mean, it's just like, you know, you look like those East German cars, and then you look at the ones that are like the Mercedes-Benz, and you think, one's doing better than the other.
Yeah. There are, by the way, still people, you know, like even in my country, and this kind of, it demonstrates you how you have a cognitive dissonance, and like basically everywhere in the world, you have still people in my country that are like, yeah, during communism it was better, and I always tell them, no, it wasn't. There's, you know, like so much empiric evidence that it suggests cars is one of them. What were you driving, you know, like during communism? What were they driving in the West? What are they driving now? What they are driving in the West? Those are comparable. You know, like you can compare those two. You could not before. It was not better, it was simpler. You had a job. You went to a job. You didn't have to consider, voting was mandatory, by the way, during communism, but you could have voted only for Communist Party. Just saying, So yeah, you didn't have to worry about who you pick. You didn't have to worry about other stuff, It wasn't freedom. In freedom, yeah, you have plenty of responsibility. You have plenty of obligations. But so what do you want? Do you want to be free? Or do you want to be basically told what you can and cannot do your whole life?
I've often heard communism described as they take away your freedom to fail. But to a large number of people, that's good because they fear failure. Mm-hmm. And so communism will take care of them because maybe they don't have very many skills. And so I can understand that to a certain extent. But yeah, it takes away your freedom to fail. But a lot of people, I've heard it back when, I haven't heard this in a long time, but there was a really common sentiment. We really miss Stalin because these problems didn't happen when Stalin was around. That's because he shot the people who, caused any kind of trouble, right? So there's still, and this is the true of, for example, Franco. There's still a lot of people, man, when Franco was here, the trains ran on time, right? That was the old Mussolini thing.
Yeah.
So authoritarianism is always going to be looked upon fondly by a few people.
Yeah. And there's one more thing. There's this bias that the people also in my country don't realize is, not everybody obviously, is that when they say, oh yeah, all these terrible things, all this murder or this rape, it wasn't happening, that much. And I'm like, no, it was. Here are official communist government, basically stats. This is how many murders, this is how many rapes, per year, per capita. You move it, to today, you see the decline. The problem, the difference is that it was not reported because rape, murder, that cannot happen in communist country. We are all for peace, blah, 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 blah. It was not reported. You didn't know about it. That's the only difference. But you are objectively safer now. And by the way, we did I don't know, how to say, celebration, Czech Republic, 7th safest country in the world, just saying.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get out there. I'm definitely going to have to get out there because you got safe country, relatively, loose feelings towards guns. Oh man, baby.
No, we can have literally everything that goes boom, within a reason. We just have a licensing that is equivalency to a driving license, but that's also our driving license. Not American. You have a very I talk with guys, in from US and stuff like that, and I'm like, you can what? You just write a test and you can drive a car? Are you kidding me? We need to take lessons. We need to basically, then we have the written test, and we need to also do in front of a commissioner. Basically drive around and stuff like that, demonstrate that we can drive, and then we can basically get a driving license. And I was like, I don't know in what state it was, but they just write a test and that's it. And I'm like, okay, are you kidding me? Because I just quickly what it you can say it basically would limit your freedom or something like that. I say that basically people who are not properly trained and stuff like that in driving limit everybody's freedom because, for example, just over the border in Germany, there's no speed limit on highways, and generally the speed limits are higher also on highways. Give me a second, I'm gonna have to convert it because I don't know your freedom units that much, the conversion. So our speed limit is 2 miles. On highway is 80. Miles per hour. Mm-hmm. And we obviously drive faster than that. It's just, and cops don't mind, whatsoever. In Germany, it's unlimited. I was there only just last week, and I was like, okay, let's take a ride. And I was like, no shit, I was going 180 miles per hour, completely legal. Because we have higher standard of that who gets the driving license.
Yeah, we actually had, I think it was Montana that took out its speed limits on its major freeways here for a while. However, the federal government came in and said, that federal highway money we give out every year, well, we're not going to give you any unless you put speed limits in. And so they basically forced Montana to go to the 55 mile per hour speed, which was at the time the standard, which is really slow. I mean, if you try to drive 55 on a freeway, it's just like crawling. But here it's 80. Yeah. And the police here, if 85 is not a problem, you go 90. Yeah, they'll pull you over for that. I look pretty favorably upon the Oklahoma Highway Patrol and the police here. I'm not favorably. I mean, respectively, I think that we have a pretty good police system here. I know everybody's going to be all pissed off when I say that. But we keep things under control for the most part. I don't think we have any real serious authoritarian problem here. But I think I have a lot of respect for the law enforcement in this state. I'm glad I don't live in Portland. So,
like I don't know if you said you watched my the video on the cultural appropriation. When you were basically describing the things that were happening there, where the police would not help, even if they are basically keeping people away, that's still harassment. And I was like, are you kidding? How is, you know what I mean? It's completely alien to me. It's so strange.
Well, and my feeling about it is, go back and read the oath. If you see a crime taking place in front of you, and you're not going to do anything because your boss told you that you just stand down, then you're, as far as I'm concerned, why did you even take an oath? The oath doesn't say in there, I promise to do whatever my boss wants me to do. It doesn't say that. It's something about protecting and serving and protecting the Constitution of the United States, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. You swore to it, and now you're allowing somebody to get assaulted right in front of you and not do anything about it. Quit. You're not a police officer. You're not a cop. Get out of here. That's my feeling about it. And I cannot see any real examples where I think a police officer should allow a person to commit a crime that harms another person in front of them without making an arrest. I just cannot conjure that. And if they're that powerless and that weak, then you have no real police force. I'm not looking for people to go around and become bullies. I don't think police should do that. I get it that the police can become authoritarian to a certain extent, and they can overstep their bounds. But above all, you have to protect the population. And I get the whole thing about the Supreme Court ruling that they don't have to. But if you swore an oath,
oh my God, that is so strange. Like, I mean, how can, I don't understand how the court could come to that conclusion. I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, that's why I pay taxes. So the police protects me. What the fuck are you talking about? It's literally that job. And I'm like, then when I was like, I heard that, I must admit I didn't read the ruling. I don't know the background, but just that I was like,
well, the ruling came originally out of a case where I think that the police officer would have placed his life in jeopardy to go out and to protect somebody. And the Supreme Court ruled that he was under no obligation to do that. And I think that over time, the ruling has become that you really just don't have to do it. Now, I don't know for sure. So there might be commenters that might know more about that ruling that might correct me. But I believe that originally the ruling was about forcing a police officer to put his own life in jeopardy. And that it has become basically that they don't have to do squat for you if they don't want to.
Yeah. Just quickly, since we are talking about the police and stuff like that, I just thought that in the United States, plenty of people are, over militarization, why do they need bulletproof cars and stuff like that, military grade cars, Give me a second. I hope you will.
I tell you what my thoughts are on it is that if you don't want the police to look military, then quit throwing shit at them to make them have to go out and get that stuff.
Yeah, and
First of all, I don't care what they look like. If they want to dress in combat looking gear, whatever, it's just gear.
Yeah.
I only care about, what they are carrying as weapons. My feeling about it is back in the day, they carried nightsticks, batons. I mean, and not the batons that we have now, but real nightsticks. And I think we had less troubles with it.
Yeah.
And, with all this police brutality stuff. The other reason why I think that we're having more problems is the advent of the semi-automatic the semi-automatic pistol. And I think it just makes it too easy to squeeze off rounds than a revolver. Revolver typically has more a stronger pull on the hammer. Man, what the hell? I can't even get anything right. A stronger trigger pull, and I think it's less conducive to just opening up and shooting what they call spray and pray.
I like to see your point, but the I can tell you that it's, in my opinion, absolutely necessary that they have the pistols just for the ammo capacity alone.
I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to have them armed with semi-automatic pistols, but I do think it does tend to lead to police officers shooting a little bit too quickly. I actually believe that one case I was telling you about in Louisville, where that police officer shot that dude, he was just hiding. I think if she had a revolver, I don't think he would have been shot. I think it was just so easy to pull that trigger in that situation. She got scared. She's coming up with this, Checkmate explanation with the flashlight and stuff, but he just startled her. And so she just opened fire on him. Luckily, she only shot him once because he did live, but I think we're seeing a lot of that.
By the way, I just want to make my first point. Can I share the screen for a second?
Sure, go ahead. Let's see here. Hang on, I think I
have it. Window. Chrome tab.
I don't know. Can you do it on your end, or do I have?
I think I got it. Can you see it?
Yeah, hang on. I think I have to approve it. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Hey, this.
Yeah. That's like Czech police response, to protest. I'm just saying. By the way, anti-COVID protest. You notice here, that's armored, vehicle, bulletproof. It's a BRDM2, by the way, Soviet design. That's literally, it doesn't have weapons now, but yeah, it's a vehicle of war. And you kind of notice the gear, and it is in a European country that has universal healthcare, that, where, I don't know, gay marriages are illegal, etc., etc. Basically the dream of the leftists, in the United States of America. And, look at our police. And we are completely fine with that. No, makes sense, perfect sense, for example, why police needs can I stop? Yeah, I think that's enough. So why does police need for example, bulletproof, vehicles? Well, so they don't have to, for example, shoot someone. He's at home. You know what I mean? They just drive there to, look, hey, he's in the kitchen, he's there and stuff, and he shoots, for example, at them. They don't have to shoot back because he cannot hurt them because they are in a bulletproof vehicle. Logic, just guys, come on. And there's also because US, you guys have your police, as far as I know, gets it really cheap because those are handouts from US military. It's hey, we have this old vehicle, we don't have a use for it, there you go for either change or for free, and stuff like that. So yeah, it makes sense that they.
I remember a city council meeting up in Keene, New Hampshire. Keene, I don't know if you're familiar with. I know you're not familiar with this little town. It's a little town in New Hampshire. It's become sort of a like the central hub for the whole sovereign citizen anti-government stuff.
Yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at any rate, they had a city council meeting to buy one of those Bearcat type things. They called it a tank, right? And you should see the arguments that went back and forth on that one, right? It's like, this is a small little tiny town. I don't think I could envision them really needing that kind of deal, but their view of it is that if something really big goes down, we need this thing here to be able to handle it. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny to watch them go back and forth on it. And again, this is the symbolism thing, just like with the AR-15. The tank itself, if you want to call it a Bearcat or an armored vehicle thing or whatever, in of itself doesn't really cause any problems. It's the symbolism.
Yeah.
It looks military. And just like the AR-15, it's just a semi-automatic rifle. I own a bunch of semi-automatic pistols. So what? But it's that whole scary-looking, military-looking thing that bothers everybody.
That's one thing. And then you show them, for example, examples of police officers using those scary AR-15s to shoot like a mass shooter. There was a case where a guy was putting, in the United States, a gun to the head of an infant that he was holding, and the police officer, shot him in the head from like, I don't know, no, that's too much. I would say around 20 yards-ish, 30 yards, something like that. It was like insane shot, and he obviously saved the life of the baby. But hey, those people that say AR-15, the police should not have AR-15, they kind of skip over these things.
And I own an M1 Garand, and it's a military rifle, but it doesn't look like the AR-15 does, and people would probably be okay with it. But that rifle probably killed a hell of a lot more people back in the day than any AR-15, right? Well, and it's a 30-06, so it's got real serious firepower.
Yeah, definitely. And it's insane, because even back in the day where during the World War II, 30-06 was basically thought of kind of overpowered or too much power for what you need. And it was when everybody had 7.62s, and Germans had 8mm Mauser. Well, we did too, in Czechoslovakia. So everybody had these big calibers, and it was before the change to 5.56, and 5.45. And even at that time, it was like, the 30-06, it's maybe too much. We maybe don't need that much power, but hey, whatever. It's insane round.
It's about as powerful as you really can go without
going to 50 cal.
You start to flinch when you shoot one. And so it's kind of at the upper limit about where you want to go with the rifle, in my opinion. Anything more powerful than that, it's going to really be hard to train on a target.
Yeah,
you're just going to be worried about the kick. And it kicks pretty good. But the nice thing about the AR-15 is that it hardly kicks at all. It's a sweet rifle. It's good. And that's one of the reasons why people like it so much.
Just before we kind of move on that, does your Garand also basically has problem to cycle on the 7th round?
I'm sorry?
If your rifle has also problems to cycle on the 7th round. Now it's like a curse, because there's so many rifles that for some reason, I don't know why, I don't know if somebody knows, but plenty of the Garand rifles, they don't cycle properly on the 7th round, in the.
Try different ammo. But
could be, but
that could be an ammunition problem. Of course.
But no, it's 7th. It's always 7th round. It's not like first. It's not the second. It's the 7th for some reason.
I don't think.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's the construction of the clip. Is it clip? No, it's clip, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Ammunition. Whatever.
The M1 was always, of course, with the M1 thumb. How in the hell does that happen?
Yeah.
I understand how it could, but.
Yeah, and just basically, if we could kind of transition when we are talking about the police and stuff, who are the people that are leading these discussions, and they whip the people, oh my God, look at the police, they have grenade launchers. And I'm like, those are 40, yes, they can launch grenades, but you know what they launch? Less than lethal rounds, beanbags, 40mm beanbags, so the police doesn't have to shoot people. You know what I mean? They literally are so stupid, so idiotic, so they just want to win, and it's so ignorant of that basically topic of firearms that they would take away less than lethal option from the police, so police would have to then shoot more people. it's like, oh my god.
I mean, the human hand is good at grenade launcher. It's like,
Yeah. Or Molotov, like Molotov launcher, like in Portland, like Neil showed it, and you were talking about it, and I was, holy shit, like, dude, you're lucky they didn't shoot you on the spot.
I can't think of a weapon that would be less conducive to the police than a grenade launcher. I mean, I can't even imagine. Even if you want an authoritarian police that to suppress the people and oppress them, a grenade launcher isn't really much of a weapon for that kind of work. So I don't know. People just don't get it. They don't understand, and it almost hurts the eyes to see. Like, for example, my M1, it has a clip, no doubt about it. But so you think that the AR-15 has one too? No, that's not a clip.
Yeah.
So they don't know.
Just the most basic terminology, and also like, I forgot the name of was it senator or congresswoman in years when she was like saying, I was holding AR-15 and it was like heavy as 10 moving boxes, and I'm like, what? What is it? Like, I have, I was moving recently, you know what I mean? When I had, for example, boxes with books, I can tell you, it's not even heavy as what box, just saying, Yeah,
I mean, we know the weight of an AR-15. I actually don't know offhand. I'm thinking it's like 6 pounds, maybe 7. 6.
Wait, I need to recalculate that now.
The M1, I think, I tell you right now, the M1 probably closer to 9.
Yeah.
But yeah, the M1's heavy.
Yeah.
The AR-15's light, and kick is really low. I mean, and if you remember, the one journalist that was fired, he said he had PTSD from it, and all these guys had their like little 8-year-old kids.
Yeah, that's one. And I was, I was back. Jesus, how old I was first time I was shooting. I was visit 58. For those who don't know, it's. Looks like a Kalashnikov, but it's not a Kalashnikov. It's actually better Kalashnikov. Yeah, I said it, guys. I said it. Just VZ58 is better than Kalashnikov. Anyway, I think like 10 or something like that. And I must say, by the way, one of the things why I think it's better than AKM, for example, the VZ58, is because it has actually less recoil than the AK, but still, it has far more recoil than AR-15. And what is kind of, you could say, scary to, if I don't know if you're a sissy journalist, is that basically actually when it cycles the brass or the steel casing, it flies from top of the receiver, not to the side, so it flies directly in front of your face, like upwards. So that could probably, if you are like a kid and you, for example, press this trigger and suddenly there's a bang and something, flies in front of your face, I would see how you could get, for example, scared or something like that. But hey, I don't have PTSD from that. I like shooting guns.
Yeah, my favorite, if you want to have a good laugh, and I don't know if we've talked about this dude before, but the leader of the NFAC. I mean, and the whole thing about the accidental discharge.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, even if he was basically, let's say it's not true, but let's say even if it would be true, and it would be so easy to basically have the negligent discharge or accidental, in his words. Well, why do you carry those rifles around with ammunition inside? If they go all on its own, all the time, why do you carry them then? With the ammo inside. That's that's gigantic negligence. If that would be the case, you should not have, the round basically in a chamber. Well, in this case, because he was showing it with the bolt hold open. You know what I mean? In the back, not even magazine inside, because idiot. But oh my gosh.
I mean, if it was that easy to discharge, how many soldiers would we lose every year to this?
Well, he claimed, it happens every day that people die, and I'm like, no, it doesn't.
This is where you start to wonder, were you really in the military?
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine anybody coming out of the military thinking those things.
Yeah, 100%.
He should have. I mean, I don't know where he crafts it. He's either lying or he was never in the military and he's guessing.
Yeah.
But, oh yeah, and then, of course the NFAC when they shot each other in that one park. It's just, yeah. I mean, they probably should start with maybe 22 long rifle. You work their way up from that.
And no, but there you go. Well, they literally carried. They were literally militia, and they literally carried AR-15s, etc. Everybody was armed to protest. Nobody. Anti-cows. Hello. Yep. Is that a problem? Maybe no. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and while there were some people hurt by them, it's because he shot each other. I mean, it was like, come on, guys. I mean, and
by the way, nobody was charged, as far as I know. Is that correct?
What was that?
Nobody was charged for the negligence.
I don't think so. I do know who did it. It was that one. I think it was a female there in the thing that where it went off. But I don't think that she was ever charged for it. Even though people got shot. I mean, I'm sorry, that's a crime.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they would have been able to identify her.
Yeah.
In the end, but it's just the same old thing. We hear this all the time, by the way, every time a state passes constitutional carry, where, and by the way, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I don't.
If we want to put a gun in our, holster or in our car, whatever, we can do it. I mean, we could just put it in there and walk around. Don't need a permit. And every time a state passes it, it's going to turn into another big gunfight. You're going to walk down the street and everybody's going to be shooting each other left and right. It never happens. Utah has had, you can carry a gun on college campuses there. They've had that for 7-8 years now. No one's ever been shot. So there was the one exception, but the person carried the gun onto campus to shoot a person specifically.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with the actual carrying of the weapon itself, the law. So yeah, we hear this crap all the time. Every time it's going to be the wild, wild west, but it never transpires. And I actually did a statistical study to show that once a state passes constitutional carry, there is no statistical change in the actual murder rate.
Yeah, and I would just like to add to that, because if I may, I will now speak a wee bit on the disconnect between anti-guns gun people and pro-gun people in the United States of America, because I think there's a gigantic misunderstanding from the anti-gunners why they don't understand why pro-gunners don't want a single basically increase in gun restrictions, and background checks. It's from their perspective, from the pro-gunners, it's give them an inch, they will take a mile. And I can tell you, their fear is completely warranted, because in my country, we have a perfect record when it comes to gun control. We have, basically, you need a psychological evaluation, you need to, obviously, background checks, etc. If you are even irresponsible, like speeding a lot, like you have plenty of speeding tickets, you cannot have a firearm, then, you need to go through training. You need to go both from legal training, basically when you can shoot someone, for example, when you cannot, etc. It's not complicated. It's like a high school test, kind of thing. But you need to know your shit, basically. Well, you could say that is literally the dream of all the leftists for the United States of America. And we were perfectly happy with it. We didn't have, except one mass shooting, and that was hadn't to do anything with the gun controls. It was because the guy had legal firearms, yes, but he had them literally from the beginning of our country, from '93, and he went cray-cray over the time. And because personal data protection laws, they conflicted, and the doctors didn't see that he was a firearm holder. That simply that was oversight. And so they couldn't take those firearms away from him because he was certifiedly crazy. And we were like, oh crap, we need to fix this. And it was fixed, inside a month or something like that, yeah, by the way. And we were happy. Everything good. No gun violence, even though we can have all the guns. Yeah, what happened? EU stepped in. They were like, nope, 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 cannot have that. And they basically, so you understand how EU works, is that when they vote something in, majority of the countries, for example, like this, the rest kind of needs to adapt. They need to take it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And why? We have perfect record. We don't have a problem with gun violence. We don't have mass shootings. And literally in Europe, every single terrorist attack that ever happened was with illegal firearms. Why are you going after the legal ones? It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And so they are like tightening screws quite a lot. And so that's literally the definition, you know, like it's by definition. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And they are literally waging a war on guns with their end goal, because we've seen the end goal is to forbid them completely to such a degree that muskets displayed in museums would be illegal. That it could not be, you know, not even imitations. That would be illegal. That is completely bonkers and again pointless, because we have a perfect record when it comes to, you know, gun control.
Well, and the reason why I oppose the registration of firearms is a very simple reason. If they want to impose gun control, they won't come and take your firearms. They'll just tax you, and they'll tax you into where you have to give it up. And they're making no bones about it. They're saying that this is their tactic. And so, why would you like to pay $500 a year to own your handgun? Well, that's okay if you turn it in for voluntary, exchange, return. Well, that's nothing voluntary. If you're going to find the ever-loving crap out of me unless I do this, it's no longer voluntary. Right. That's confiscation. Okay. So let's stay away from the confiscation word. But ultimately, they want you to register your weapons so they know who's got them, so that they can tax them into oblivion. And of course, the criminal element out there, they're not going to get taxed. Mm-hmm. They're not even going to care if they even get taxed, because they don't pay taxes. And so the average American who goes out and target practices is going to be getting hit hard. I think that this is the tactic they're going to try with the AR-15. Yeah,
and I basically one thing that I will absolutely demand, both from basically these EU dumbbells, and I think you should demand also from your lawmakers, the people that make these laws, that vote for these laws, their protection detail should follow the same restrictions. They should not have access to basically look. First of all, it's true. You need a protection detail because yes, you are a public figure. People know where you are, etc. But no, if you, for example, limit magazine size, your protection detail needs to have the same magazine. It can have only those magazines. They cannot have 30 standard capacity magazines in their AR-15s.
Action.
Yeah, you make AR-15s forbidden. Okay, your protection detail cannot have AR-15s, etc., etc., etc. Because it is downright hypocritical that you basically say, "Oh yeah, you guys, yeah, we cannot. You cannot protect yourself, but we will be protected."
Right. Well,
that's like literally let them eat cake, basically.
It's so dangerous out there. I mean, gosh, there are a lot of people that might want to shoot me. I need people around me with guns, but you don't need them.
Yeah, precisely.
And that's the way. Here's the thing: they're completely hypocrisy resilient.
Yeah.
They cannot see that. The entire hypocrisy of their argument. They surround themselves, these Hollywood celebrities who are going on there on the
oh my God,
circuit, going around there, and they're surrounded by people with arms, and they just don't get it. Like, I don't understand. I need the people around me with weapons.
Yeah, or LeBron James when he was like on the Micaiah Bryant shooting, we need accountability, blah blah blah, and he's surrounded by cops everywhere he goes. Do it.
Right. So, and that's expensive. And, the person who has had, death threats, let's suppose a woman who's, had some domestic violence, trying to get away from her boyfriend. She's in an apartment by herself. A gun is about all she's got.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, well, you got to get a restraining order. The restraining order just tells him where you are.
Yeah.
That's the only purpose it serves.
I basically seen the best description like ever when it comes to the anti-gunners is, well, if somebody comes to you to do you harm and you don't have a firearm on you, you are calling someone else to come with a firearm and praying that they will arrive in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, you maybe don't like guns and don't believe in God, but yeah, that was like that, like you call someone.
By the way, you're calling somebody who's under no obligation to come.
Yeah,
Supreme Court's already ruled that. So the police can literally say, "Hey, yeah, that's pretty dangerous. You'll lock your doors, and if you do get shot, call 911, and the ambulance will come out." Now, the police aren't doing that, although in some parts of the country they might. Around here, of course, they wouldn't. But that's what you're left with. And then, of course, if you've seen some of the police officers that we have in this country, I'd rather just get my own gun and take care of it. Really, I'm not calling some of them. Like that scaredy cat police officer in Louisville. I ain't calling her. No, I'll take care of this myself. I stand a better chance of handling it. And I just think also that the whole notion of having to depend on somebody else to come save you, it just grates my skin, just gets under my skin. I'm sorry, I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
That's just subservient slave sheep stuff.
I've seen excellent video from channel Jubilee. Also, I can send it to you, maybe even that aren't. I cannot. Okay, I'll just send it to you here. Absolutely excellent video. We can then put it in comments, for example, on a video. It's a gun debate of pro and anti-gunners. And there's a handicapped, wheelchair-bound woman that got raped, and after which she got a weapon. Mm-hmm. And you want to tell me that we don't need firearms? You want to tell that to that woman that she doesn't need a gun, that she should just call cops?
And they might come.
And and if you can call, you know what I mean? Literally, who? If you are in a situation where there's a lunatic running at you, with a knife or something like that, or you wake up in the middle of the night and stuff like that, do you have even time to call the police, for example? Yeah, you quite possibly don't.
Yeah, and I've also heard people say, well, if somebody breaks into your house, you're not going to have time to get your gun. Oh, yeah? Oh, really? Break in my house sometime. You'll find out.
Yeah,
I can get a beat on you really quickly. But,
precisely.
I think that the riots have changed a lot of people's minds about this whole thing.
Yeah,
they envisioned the whole thing about self-protection is a person breaks into your house at night. They didn't realize, holy shit, no, we're talking 20, 30 people pounding on your door, throwing Molotov cocktails at your house. They never envisioned that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the AR-15 sounds a lot better than it did before.
I bet you that even Googling, drum magazines and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the AR-15 is a problem for the let's say the rioters, because it does eliminate that whole mob thing. Hey, let's get 20, 30 people. He can't shoot all of us. Oh yeah, he can.
He can.
He can shoot 30.
Yeah.
And he can reload and start shooting another 30 probably within about 2-3 seconds.
Yeah, and let's be honest. After 5 guys, I don't. The 6th guy is like, I don't think so. I'm not going there.
And I think that there's an element of the hatred of the AR-15 by some of these people, because it does pose as a way to thwart Their desire is to gang up. And, all of a sudden, you're not going to be able to descend on that house anymore. You wouldn't see that here.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get 15, 20 people with torches and stuff invading a home. That would be suicide.
Yeah.
But in like Portland, yeah, you could do it. You could, if you get enough people, you could go and swarm a house, get in. Police aren't going to do anything. And so the mob starts to dominate, starts to control, and that's what they want.
Yeah, and by the way, if you ever and to this is to American audience, I will probably put it. I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Czech Republic, everything goes boom, we can have it, and we are the 7th safest country in the world. Mm-hmm. You have, for example, Germany, where you cannot have legally pepper spray. Knives are there heavily prohibited. By the way, this is illegal there technically, because I can open it with one hand. I can later on, by the way, say how stupidly idiotic it is. But anyway, Germany, where you can, a regular person cannot have firearms, but you cannot have basically, like knives for self-defense, because, well, for self-defense, you need a knife that you can open with one hand. You cannot have pepper sprays. You cannot have tasers, etc. They are number 17. How do you figure, I'm not saying that it's just because of firearms, but it, at the very least, is empiric evidence that firearms in a society, in a responsibly well-educated society, are not detriment to public safety.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that it's not just the deaths. But when you get all beat up and cut up, that's also real harm. And the firearm prevents that. Yep. A knife is really not a good defensive weapon.
As was shown, Kyle Rittenhouse versus the Antifa guy. Mm-hmm. Kyle didn't get, he got, smashed around and stuff like that. But in the end, he defended himself. The Antifa guy was damn lucky police was nearby and they saved him.
Yeah, if somebody breaks into my house at night, I'm not going to go after them with a knife. A knife is a terrible defensive weapon, and it's, so if you're carrying a knife, okay, let me put it this way: if you're carrying a knife, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, 100%.
But ultimately, it's really not a really good defensive weapon. If you're going to defend yourself, you pretty well do need a gun. I get it that pepper spray will work in some cases. But
I use basically pepper spray with, in a combination with lethal backup. You know what I mean? Because that's, by the way, the only thing that I would, to a degree, trust my life with from the non-lethal things, tasers, hell no. You know what I mean? I don't know, I don't even... I don't consider them, they're so stupid, like most of the non-lethal things for civilian market, they simply don't work, So I use, because, I travel a lot around Europe, so I cannot have a firearm, in other countries. I, have all, when it comes to self-defense, I have pepper spray and I have usually a knife as a, then, okay, if pepper spray didn't work, well, tough luck, mate, Yeah, I know it. The other thing about the pepper spray is that, man, I got hit with that once. It wasn't intentional. It was, kind of an accidental deal. Wow, man, I really struggled. I couldn't breathe or nothing. My eyes just shut up. But you watch TV, some people are just impervious to it. They get sprayed and stuff, and they're just like, it's like... Yeah, but it's also, it's like a weaker stuff, because we, in Czech, this is another thing, in Czech Republic, we can have basically anything, and so we have like this insane, basically from like India, from the chili peppers and stuff like that, from the capsicum, that are just so, it's spicy, and it should basically put you down for like a day or two. You should be neutralized, and basically you would not be thinking that's legal. It's very much illegal, in plenty of other countries. I believe in the United States, these pepper sprays are actually illegal. But here it's legal, and
do they do permanent damage?
No. But it hurts like it shuts you off. Like, I mean, it probably would to someone who has asthma. But my answer to this is, well, if you have a fucking asthma, don't attack me, and
it's probably considered a way of incapacitate. The way they can incapacitate a crowd is probably a little bit uncomfortable for the United States.
Well,
in other words,
I wasn't speaking about police force. I was for civilian use. Police uses, like basically the same equipment, like what you guys use, for pepper spray or mace, etc. That's like relatively weak stuff. But for civilian use, you can use basically anything as long as.
Well, that brings up, by the way, a dumb argument. This is more not so much a Kyle Rittenhouse dumb argument, but a woke dumb argument, and that is, tear gas has been banned in the military, but not among civilian populations. Dude, they don't understand the treaties. They don't understand how tear gas is used in military context. I'm going to have to do a video on that one. Yeah, I do that all the time. Well, the police are so authoritarian. They're using a weapon that has even been banned by the military.
Okay.
Well, that's a fallacy in alone, but it's true. In military, you cannot use tear gas.
Yeah.
And it's true you can use it in civilian settings, but it doesn't mean what they think it means.
Yeah, I have a simple, basically answer to that is, okay, let's ban the tear gas, and if there are people, for example, coming at us, attacking us, that we want, basically mace them, we just shoot them.
Or even worse, in their minds, the water cannons. And of course, in this country, that has all kinds of symbolism problems, right? So you say, okay, you don't want the tear gas. What about the water cannon? Oh, no, we can't do the water cannon thing. What the hell are you going to do? You show me the crowd control that works better than tear gas. And, well, you shouldn't control the crowds. That's what they're going to say, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah. Like, I bet you would be fine in Oklahoma with that,
Oh, yeah, I live in a gated community, so
yeah,
whatever you guys want to. The crowds are not going to affect me.
I just wonder, what would they say if there would be crowd of Proud Boys, or a crowd of people storming a Capitol Hill?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have this tear gas here that could stop it. Oh, well, we can't. This is like not even the military is allowed to use this.
Yeah.
So I guess we're just going to have to let them tear the hell out of the place, right? And that's where the hypocrisy comes up. I wish there was something they could use that would get them to disperse. I wonder what that would be.
Yeah.
So I mean, tear gas is. I get it that it can cause permanent damage in rare instances, but for the most part, it's non-lethal. It is a very good crowd control material. It's better than the alternatives.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, what literally does the rare instances on what is taser does the same thing, like somebody can have a cardiac arrest from it who has a weak ticker, you know what I mean? Or, they can, for example, fall awkwardly, break their skull. Like, I'm sorry, that's simply the risk you're running when you are, resisting the police, and you can have that both. We can view that as justified resisting or unjustified resisting, but that's simply the game you're playing, and you need to accept that.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw the video I made with the sovereign citizen in Alabama.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, well, at any rate, it was like one of my very first ones. Might have been my very first one. But the sovereign citizen was just kind of being a jackass. He's not assaulting anybody, but he's just not willing to comply. Yeah. And the police officer, in my opinion, was being overly aggressive with him, but he was being a little bit of a jackass, and he got two police officers trying to control him. He grabs he puts his hand on the taser of one of the police officers. She pulls out a gun, presses it in his stomach, and fires, kills him right in front of his family. Oh my God! His son comes running out of the car. Dad, and I'm like, oh God, Well, here it's pretty clear the fact that taser is considered what they call a close to lethal or near lethal or something like that.
Yeah, less
enough,
lethal, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's enough, though, that you can defend your life against it. So she didn't, by the way, that police officer, no charges. He didn't try to shoot her with it. He just put his hand on it. That was enough. So, yeah, you got to go and watch it. By the way, that whole deal with the case in Wendy's in Atlanta is very similar to it.
With I know what you mean.
Yeah,
precisely.
this one was worse, in my opinion.
It was I don't have basically what I have problem there is that the suspect, he took. Are we talking about the one where he took the taser away from the officers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And while he fired the taser, the taser is fired, it cannot fire basically no more. I don't know, maybe it had 2 charges, okay, but still you are in considerable distance from further than effective range was the police officer. I must say that shoot, in my opinion, was not okay.
Okay, so again, this is where, what does the law say? And ultimately it comes down to first of all, has he committed a felony? Yes.
I understand.
The other one is he fleeing? Yes. Does he pose a danger to the community? That one there, he does have a taser, but again, it comes down to, what does the police officer think? Does the police officer think he poses a danger to the community? It's not whether we do, sitting out in hindsight. So I've watched a bunch of police officers analyze that one, including Rick Gore, who's really anti-police. I mean, it's just, if you watch his channel, it's just one anti-police show after another, and he's always ragging on the cops. He says that's a justified shooting. And I have yet to hear a police officer yet say that was an unjustified shooting. But they're talking legally, not morally.
That's a distinction, between the two of us, or not only the two of us, but me basically, is kind of what I would do in that situation. And well, obviously I don't know to a degree, but when I would see him fire, okay, the taser is fired. Let's say it has different charge. Okay, I'll pull back. I'll stay outside of the effective range of the taser, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's kind of what I was thinking. Legally speaking, okay, yeah, sure, he can be justified from that, but.
Well, again, I think what it's going to come down to is the police officer is going to claim that he had a reasonable fear that the guy was going to be able to shoot him with the taser.
Okay.
If he can shoot him with the taser, he can take your gun from you. So ultimately,
but
legally, that you cannot allow yourself to be tased. And hey, man, I don't want anybody tasing me anyway.
I would see that point, and here I will be playing, basically we could say devil's advocate. I would see that point if he would not have his partner there. Well,
now again, it comes down to, is the presence of his partner, was that something that he was cognizant of at the time that he was being shot? And I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just saying this is going to be his dealio here. Also, you have to take into account that he's just been assaulted by this guy. So you have to take a look into the context of it. What's his frame of mind?
Okay.
And given all that, I mean, I've just heard a lot of police officers say, dude, that's a justified shooting if there ever was. Well, okay. I could see the other side of the argument as well. We'll see. But I just have a feeling that they're going to probably not convict that officer on this one.
Because
now, there's another case, by the way, where the politics got real interesting with that district attorney.
Yeah, I know, because the district attorney basically he stated or he charged some police officers who tased someone, and he was saying that taser is a lethal weapon. And then this happened afterwards, and he charged that officer for the, and I see that's literally the hypocrisy. And on technicality, from technical standpoint, or he should not be charged, the officer, for shooting that suspect. Like I agree with you there. I just basically expressing, like how I see it, like on my personal level, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that doesn't get discussed much is the officer knows he's got his taser, but at the moment the man points it at him, I'm not sure he doesn't reflexively react like it's a gun.
Could be that's a good point.
And
that's a good point.
I think that a lot of officers get kind of, let's say, victimized by this whole thing, because you're talking split seconds.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Is it really outside the realm of possibility that he just saw this thing pointing at him and flinched on it and said, "Gun"? Yeah, it can happen. One thing about the whole self-defense thing is that we try to sort of understand this from the officer's standpoint, and that is we sort of bend over backwards to understand kind of how this could have happened and how it could have happened to a normal, rational person. And we kind of have our laws kind of built around like that kind of thing, because a person who goes out with the intent of doing good and throughout the entire time does what he thinks is the right thing, we tend to kind of not want to throw the person in prison for that. And so we kind of try to understand what's the psychology in this. For example, the mag dump is a perfect example where, he shot him 7 times. Is there a way that we can understand why a person would ever do that? And the answer is yes. The reflexive action of squeezing off multiple rounds is well known in psychology. And therefore, we bend over backwards to understand that just because somebody shoots somebody 7 or 8 times doesn't mean the guy was out to do evil or that he was irresponsible. And that's, by the way, codified now in Supreme Court law. The number of times you shoot a person alone cannot be used to gauge your intent.
Okay.
And again, the semi-automatic lends itself to this because it's easy to, once you pull once, it's easier to just keep pulling. It's a nerve reflex. And I don't doubt that after a person's down and down, a person can just continue squeezing off rounds just out of the pure emotion of the thing. Can a rational, reasonable person find themselves in that situation where once they have said somebody attacked them, in the state of mind that they're in, just continue to pump bullets into a person just by the pure psychology of the thing? And my answer is yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Again, I just don't think that when they hear cop, that all goes out the window. Nikita Bryant, we saw that. I mean, good grief! If there is ever a good use of a gun, there it was. And yet, in their mind, he should have only shot her once. No, it don't work like that.
Yeah, and I basically would like to. I will come back to the Nikita Bryant and like what you just said, but I would like to basically specify that even though the police officer, let's say in my mind, or I see potentially, and now as you said, he could have interpreted it by reflex that as a pistol, like the taser. Yeah, that's a good point. But even earlier, I would not have him charged if it would be up to me, because we send police officers to extreme situations. We send them there because we don't go there. We outsource this very dangerous thing to them, and it is incredibly hypocritical to basically on let's say mistakes and stuff like that, because in the end they are just humans. They will make mistakes. Even you can argue, was it a mistake, was it not? Yeah, but if it would be a mistake, well, why was he there in that situation? Because we sent him there to keep peace, because we don't do it ourselves. And then when things go wrong, we charge him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We should be then policing the streets ourselves, And obviously, please do. If there's some dighead who will say, "Oh, what about Chauvin?" That is completely different thing. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
not talking about that. If you want to have a discussion on it, we can have it. I can explain you on very, like why is it completely different. And in my opinion, even like I will not go into that because that's like so sensitive like topic basically. But yeah, like the dude should be in prison.
Yeah, the whole Chauvin thing, that's a whole new can of worms. And I have stayed away from it because, again, I don't like to dive onto subjects rather thinly. I want to explore them in depth before I start commenting. And there's just so much out there on Rittenhouse. And I also am putting together Tamir Rice, sort of a, expose or whatever. But again, you haven't seen it yet, because I have to do a lot more investigation. But I'm just getting now a text from the significant other telling me, are you on your way? So I better get out of here. And we've been at it for quite a while, so I better go. I will see you later. Okay, so just as a final comment, Logical Checkmate has his own YouTube channel. I highly recommend you going in there and looking at some of his videos and subscribing. And I also would like you to subscribe to my own. So with that, I'll see you maybe next week.
Yeah, hopefully we will talk some more about that.
All right, take care, everybody. I'll see you.